streets with diamonds in our eyes. Out with the vampires under a midnight sky. My mind so hypnotized. It was exciting. It was the 90s. Mama didn't understand it, and Daddy always said that I was going too far. Said there's never any compromising if you try to win the battle to be who you are. I dance to the left, I dance to the right, hold hands with my demons and creatures of night, on an undercover mission to find somebody else like me. Is there anybody out there? Is there anybody out there? Someone who can hear me and drink from the light, to see things from the same side. Is there anybody out there? 5 years later, I'm out with the same old faces and dead end places. Things kept going wrong. I'm getting to thinking my daddy was right all along. So will you take a little walk on the wild side? Be careful that you never slip your hands from the wheel. There's never any compromising when you're blinded by reflections from the part of you that's real. I dance to the left, I dance to the right, hold hands with my demons and creatures of night, on an undercover mission to find somebody else like me. Is there anybody out there? Is there anybody out there? Someone who can hear me and drink from the light, to see things from the same side. Is there anybody out there? I dance to the left, I dance to the right, hold hands with my demons and creatures of night, on an undercover mission to find somebody else like me. Is there anybody out there? Is there anybody out there?
What is going on, everybody? A big win for the U.S. in the World Cup. For those of you who have been paying attention to what has been going on, I know many of you have. Big win for the U.S. over Bosnia, so it's a good night. It's a Wednesday night, and I am glad that you are with me for yet another Dynamite review. This Dynamite happens to be coming after a pay-per-view, and there have been many post-pay-per-view Dynamites that frankly have not been very good. Thankfully, this was one of the better ones that they have done. But you'll notice there was no review. I did not do a live review for Forbidden Door on Sunday. I did do a full review for the pay-per-view as part of the Uncrowned Wrestling show yesterday, which you can go check out. But just some top-line thoughts here because, we are coming out of this Forbidden Door show, which it was nothing like Double or Nothing. Double or Nothing to me is still... We'll see. We're only halfway through. But to me, Double or Nothing is the pay-per-view of the year so far. Double or Nothing was, just from top to bottom, a tremendous show. Forbidden Door really, what put it over the top were the three, as they build them, the three main events of the show, which were the finals of the men's and the Owens, the men's and Owen, I don't even know what I'm saying. The men's and women's Owen Hart final, and the 12-man 6-on-6 cage match. which I thought was fun, and I enjoyed that more than I thought I would. And the main event with Will Ospreay and Swerve Strickland. Will Ospreay going to Wembley Stadium. He will be challenging for the AEW World Championship, which I think everybody and their mother knew was going to be the case, but those two guys, they have chemistry for days. They went out there, had a tremendous match. My personal match of the night, though, I will say, the one that I enjoyed the most, Mercedes Moné and Maya World. Maya World, who was not even on the show tonight, Maya World will be on Collision tomorrow, because Maya World is going to end up in the women's gauntlet match that Tony Khan is doing next week to crown a number one contender for Tekla at Redemption later this month in Montreal. So we will see Maya World. Maya World had a star-making performance on Sunday. I thought that match was tremendous, especially down the stretch and the drama and the near falls and everything. I loved it. And so that really is what helped put that pay-per-view over the top for me. Also very happy that Tony Khan, starting with Redemption, is going to be doing these pay-per-views an hour earlier. So the next show will start at 7 Eastern, pre-show at 6 p.m. Of course, All In is going to be a little bit different because they're going to be in the UK. So that's going to probably be a 1 o'clock Eastern start, would be maybe 12 p.m. for the pre-show. So that's going to be a whole different ball of wax. But from Forbidden Door, we get Dynamite tonight. And on this Dynamite, we had a World Championship match. Why? Because MJF's team lost to Team Briscoe on Sunday, which guaranteed Mark Briscoe an AEW World Championship match here tonight on this show. And they opened the show with it. And we would find out why that would be the case, because it was a show-long angle that they shot. And I love it when they do that. And it's smart to do that. It gives the fans a reason to stick around for the entire 2 hours. MJF and Mark Briscoe, they went to war. MJF is still the AEW World Champion. Kenny Omega wants next. MJF agreed to give it to him under one condition. And that condition is the same condition that he chose for the match, the Texas Death Match, that he had a few months ago with Hangman Adam Page. Which is that if Kenny Omega goes in there next week, and it will be next week on Dynamite, they're not waiting until Redemption, which is bullshit. I still have every expectation that we're going to see this match at Redemption. But next week, they're going to wrestle for the AEW World title. If Kenny Omega cannot beat MJF, and I don't remember how they phrased it, if you can't beat him or if you can't win the championship. But if he can't beat MJF, he can never again challenge for the AEW World title. He will fall into the same category as Cody Rhodes and Hangman Page, two other members of the Elite. And they're doing this match in Clearwater, Florida, on the Beach Break episode of Dynamite next week. That was the biggest surprise of all. Not even that MJF would select that stipulation. It was the timing of the match. And I look at this and I just say to myself, there is literally a pay-per-view coming up called Redemption. Kenny Omega has been dropping many redemption mentions in his promos over the last couple of weeks. There is no way that Kenny Omega in Montreal does not challenge MJF for the World Championship, or I suppose could be defending that championship, frankly, on that show. But he has to challenge for it on that show, because that's the whole point of him getting his redemption. His redemption arc is him winning the belt back by finally beating MJF, which is something that he has never been able to do. And MJF made that very clear on the show tonight, that you're 0 for 2 against me, buddy. You're about to go 0 for 3. So I don't think that whatever happens next week is going to be the end of it. I'm looking at next week. Frankly, I'm looking at next week, and I'm seeing some sort of finish that gives Omega a win without, him outright pinning MJF and winning the belt. It could be a DQ. It could be some kind of screwy finish. Look, it could be a time limit draw. We have seen MJF on this very television program wrestle Will Ospreay in a match that went just shy of 60 minutes before. He's done this already. In a world championship match, you have a 60-minute time limit. Who's to say that they don't go out there next week and they don't have the marathon match? No winner, nothing's been decided, and it extends out to the pay-per-view. That's what I'm expecting. But that's a major match for them to promote for next week's show. And again, it was smart to keep people tuned in. Kenny came out at the end of the show. He cut this impassioned promo, and he accepted the challenge, which of course he was going to accept the challenge. The babyface coming out and saying, you know what? I don't think I want to do this. Not exactly a babyface promo. So they set that up well, I thought, for next week's show. Meanwhile, the actual main event, in-ring main event on this show, was to decide a brand new TBS champion. The championship has been vacant for over a month. Tonight was the first ever survival of the fittest match in an AEW ring. We have a new TBS champion, and thy name is Hikaru Shida, the former AEW Women's World Champion. I am not a fan of this. I was very disappointed by the outcome of this match. I think there were better options to go with. I'm sorry to all the Shida fans out there. But she is the new TBS champion, and they also seem to set up a future match, if not a future program, between Kris Statlander and Persephone, which I'm here for. And to be honest with you, watching the match tonight, as the match progressed, and I'm a Persephone fan, but I'm watching this match and I'm like, you know what? If it's not going to be Aminata, who was my pick going into it, I would have loved to have seen Persephone walk away with that championship. And I'm kind of bummed that it didn't work out that way. But at least now we have an actual champion. The funny thing is, the entire reason that we had this match in the first place to crown a new champion is because Willow Nightingale got hurt. And so they stripped her of the championship back in May. Meanwhile, they've been airing vignettes on TV promoting her return, and Fightful had a report about a week ago saying that she's expected to be back in July, this month. And now we just so happen to have a women's casino gauntlet next week on Dynamite, where the winner will challenge Tekla at Redemption for the championship. My money is on Willow Nightingale to return in that match next week and win, and go on to win the world championship at Redemption. I think there's a very good chance that it's going to be Willow Nightingale going into the ring with Mercedes Moné at All In to defend that world title. But it begs the question, if I'm right, and whether she wins or not, but if she's back, let's say next week, if Willow is coming back so soon, was it a situation where they thought her injury was more serious than it was? Maybe they thought she needed surgery and she ended up not having surgery. Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any... If we assume that it's all on the up and up, and that this wasn't a work from the very beginning, which I honestly don't believe it was. I don't believe it was. Can't discount the possibility that it was all set up this way to get the belt off her without losing it, just to get the world title on her. But assuming that this was all legit, I can only imagine the injury turned out to be less severe, because otherwise it doesn't make any sense to take the belt off of her if you weren't even going to crown a champion until the beginning of July. And then she comes back next week or in 2 weeks. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Speaking of people coming back, one of the things that I really liked about Forbidden Door was the return of Switchblade Jay White. Now, every single pay-per-view, I believe, it was like he would go on social media and he would post ready. He was teasing people for months. And every single time we had a pay-per-view, or every single time there was a casino gauntlet, it's like, oh, Jay White's going to come back tonight. Tonight's the night that Jay White returns. And he would never show up. And he did the same damn thing on Sunday, but this time it was for real. And he actually came back. And I'm very happy to see him back. He's been snake bitten with injury since he debuted here. I really hope he can stay healthy. Came back on Sunday. He was here tonight. He cut a promo, very, very good promo, I thought. Andrade El Idolo, if you saw the pay-per-view on Sunday, out of the Don Callis family. The full babyface turn now has been completed. He made an appearance on the show tonight. Darby Allin came out. He wants next for Kevin Knight and the TNT Championship. Don Callis says no. You and I say yes. It's only a matter of when. Is that the redemption match? Do they want to carry this out until Wembley? It's only a matter of time. So they're setting that match up for the future. Again, a lot of times these post-pay-per-view episodes of Dynamite, they fall flat. There are people who don't, like major names, who don't even show up on the show. They're beat up, maybe they're injured. Tony Khan has said in the past, like sometimes on these pay-per-views, he knows that they're going to go balls out. And so it's hard for him to really book a Dynamite show not knowing who's going to be available, like physically who's going to be available. So that's part of the problem. But so many of these shows end up being just a fucking bore compared to like the adrenaline rush that you get coming off this pay-per-view. This show here, I like the way they opened. They opened with a world championship match and a big angle. And actually, there was an opening segment that even came before the opening match that I liked, which we'll get into. And so I liked everything they did at the beginning. A lot of what was in the middle was like, It was a mixed bag. Very much a mixed bag. But we got some good stuff. Again, the Jay White promo and some of the key people that you would want to see on the show, like Andrade, Jay White. They made appearances. Lio Rush. I know some people don't like the Lio Rush stuff. I'm a Blackheart fan. Sorry, not sorry. And then they closed the show out with the 6-way women's match and then the Kenny Omega promo, the decision. Not as big as the LeBron decision many years ago, but this was his version of the decision. So I thought the way the show was structured was a lot better, and we just had a lot more to sink our teeth into on the show, where this felt like, and not just because we had a world title match, but it felt like an important show. It didn't feel like a throwaway like so many of these post-pay-per-view episodes tend to feel. Let's talk about this entire thing from top to bottom. This is your AEW Dynamite review. It is the first day of July. It is a hot day. I turned the AC off before I went live, and I'm already regretting that decision. It is still 82 degrees here in New York. It is expected to go up above 90 tomorrow and then almost 100 on Friday. So wherever you are, stay cool and stay safe, because this is very dangerous and it sucks. But it's summer. This is what happens in the summer. Do me a favor, hit that subscribe button if you have not already done so. Hit that like button. We always have a goal that we try to attain. We'll find out what that is here in a moment. Super chats are open, and I got to give a big shout out to a couple of people. The first person is Death Scythe, who has been going crazy tonight, and he's gifted 26 actually, and counting. 26 channel memberships. So you can thank Death Scythe for that. So thank you, brother. And I know that, and it hasn't popped up yet, but I did see it. I believe we have a Boots bomb that is incoming from our boy Boots.
Look at Richie
there it is.
Rich
I knew it was coming.
Dropping all this money on me.
I knew it was coming.
I just want you to know, I think you rock. I don't mean The Rock, A Rock. You rock. And I just wanted you to know that.
I knew that it was coming when I saw that red bomb. I said, oh my goodness, wait a minute. Hold on a second.
Jerry Lawler loves Goonthar.
I didn't see this one.
All hail Goonthar.
I didn't see that one. See, that one was a surprise. That was an ambush is what that was. We go from Boots with a $100 super chat. Let's start the second half of 2026 with a bang. To Randy Bobandy with a $50 Goonthar bomb. Wednesdays are known as the slow day on the stream. Let's hope this gets the ball rolling. I love you, Solo. Hey, brother, I love you too. Yeah, Dynamite last week was the go home show to Forbidden Door, and it was. I mean, I think we always try to have fun here, even if the shows aren't fun. But as far as like all the Dynamite streams that I've done going back to 2019, that was by far like the worst one I've ever done. Like nobody was around. Like nobody gave a shit about Dynamite. I don't know if it was the World Cup. I don't know if it was Forbidden Door season or a combination of different things, whatever it was. I was depressed when that was over last week. So it's nice to see some enthusiasm this week. It's good to see. Thank you, brother. But again, if you want the full Forbidden Door recap, you can check out the Uncrowned Wrestling Show. Brand new episode went up yesterday. A lot of good stuff on there. Busy weekend. So thank you for all the great feedback on that as well. Let's spin this wheel and get this party started here, shall we? Let's find out how many likes we need to do Be the Booker, which is also a struggle on Wednesdays sometimes. Spin. All right, here we go. 475 is the goal for tonight. Where are we? We're at 249. All right. Okay. That's the goal. 475 likes will get you Be the Booker. We got the bonus super chat goal going in the chat. Pinned up top. You guys know what to do. Let's move things along here. And I said there was a segment that preceded the World Championship match that opened the show tonight that I liked. So we'll start there. Dynamite came on the air, and the announcers welcomed us, and they pitched it to footage from after Forbidden Door. They do this sometimes, where they'll take us back to something backstage after the pay-per-view that they record. So in this case, it was Renee, who was in the back to interview Will Ospreay, who happened to come walking by. His face was still caked in blood. And he walks in with his lady, with one half of the Brawling Birds. Actually, come to think of it, Jamie Hayter was on the pay-per-view. Was she pay-per-view or the show?
I am the learning tree.
Where is Jamie Hayter?
Thanks, guys.
Death Scythe is still going strong. Hey, thank you for the learning tree, brother. $13 learning tree from Death Scythe. But yes, he walked in with Alex Windsor by his side. And Ospreay said, man, words cannot describe what this feeling is like. Him winning the Owen Hart tournament. Jon Moxley showed up. His locker room was right there. So all of a sudden he appears out of nowhere. And so the ladies depart. Now it's just the two guys. A few weeks ago, Moxley said that he's starting to see it in Ospreay. Ospreay wants to know, what did you mean by that? Moxley said that he who defines himself can never know who he really is. Why do I feel like Jon Moxley when he's cutting these promos? He's getting this stuff from like a fortune cookie. This sounds like something I would have to put a quarter in one of those old machines, and then like a little ball pops out with a piece of paper inside and the message in it. It's like Buddha or something. He has these little nuggets of knowledge that he likes to drop on Will Ospreay here and make himself sound smarter than he really is. He goes, this place, AEW, can be something great. This can be the greatest sport in the world, even though it's filled with carnies and backstabbers. It's up to them to protect and preserve this craft. Moxley said that, look, we took a vote on it, and he pulled out a Death Riders patch. And I just had terrible flashbacks here to the Aces and Eights. Remember the Aces and Eights and their vests, their cut. Oh my God, let's not go back to that. But he pulled out this little Death Riders patch, and he hands it over to Ospreay. He says if Ospreay takes it, he can ride with them. He can ride with Moxley anywhere. Moxley hands the patch to him, and he walks away. Ospreay is just staring at it, right? Pondering what he's going to do here. And he goes and starts walking down the hallway, and he bumps into Kenny Omega. So Omega said that Ospreay has no idea how proud he is of him. Ospreay cuts him off. He's kind of a dick, to be honest with you. He goes, "You're not my dad." And he could also see Omega is eyeballing the patch that Moxley gave to him. Says, just because you've given up on yourself doesn't mean that I will. So Omega takes exception to this. MJF, all of a sudden, he walks out. It's funny because I'm watching this, and behind them, you can see in like the locker room there, someone's arm. So it was MJF. He was just standing there waiting. He was just like eavesdropping. And so now he walks out of the room and he walks over to these guys. He's very amused by all of this. Omega said that if MJF somehow survives Mark Briscoe tonight, guess who's coming to knock on his door? MJF, he looked right past Kenny, right at Ospreay, and he told him, "I'll see you at Wembley, bruv. See you there, bruv." He walks off. Omega tells Ospreay he'll always be his friend. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you on Wednesday. I like this. Will Ospreay taking the patch, the question is, would he accept it? The answer is yes, because they had a tag team match later in the night, and he already has it on his tights. He's got the patch on his leg, on the leg of his tights. So the question I have is, and something that I have been talking about for a while is, do they do a match before we get to Wembley between Ospreay and Moxley as like one final test to see if he truly is ready and if he truly has, accepted all of the training and everything that they have kind of ingrained in him over these last few months. Is he truly ready to step in the ring and challenge for the World Championship? And at Redemption, you do Ospreay against Moxley. Or do they hold off on that and maybe they make Moxley Ospreay's first challenger coming out of All In, which is the other way they could go with it. There's also a third way, which is that there's a breakdown at some point and the Death Riders are just inevitably going to turn on Will Ospreay and try to kill him again, and then we'll get another match that way and Ospreay will win. So there's a few different ways that they could go with it. I'm partial to the idea of they don't have to turn on him again. It could be as simple as like one final test before he gets to London. But again, I don't know exactly when we're going to get the match. I have to imagine we will absolutely get the match. So I guess for now, he kind of, I guess, is a full-fledged member of the Death Riders, but we'll see where it goes. They have put together a story here now as we head into these next two pay-per-views that I am interested to see where they're going to go with it. And I wouldn't have said that a year ago. When it came to the Death Riders, I was done with the Death Riders. When they didn't break them up coming out of All In, it worried me because, they had just dominated the show so much. And it was just such... It's like one of the good things about Moxley having the Continental title now, which I don't give a shit about, but him having that belt as opposed to the World Championship is so much better because under Continental rules, you don't have the Death Riders there interfering in every single one of his matches, right? Nobody is allowed at ringside. Nobody can interfere. So when Moxley is out there, we're getting these just straight singles matches, which is a big relief compared to what we were getting a year and a half ago. So, but here we are now, and I find myself interested to see where they're going to take this story. Now, look what they did here in this opening segment. They teased a couple of different things. They teased Omega and Ospreay. They teased MJF and Omega. And they teased MJF and Ospreay. And I sit here now and I rack my brain like, okay, assuming they put the championship on Kenny, and it's not going to be MJF in the main event at Wembley Stadium, what do you do with MJF on that show? And like I said on TNT last night, the match that right now, if he's not in the world title match, the match that would make the most sense, I think, would be him and Andrade on the undercard. But if we're being honest here, MJF needs to be in that main event. There's really no reason for him not to be in that main event. Him and Andrade are going to wrestle. And I actually think Arena Mexico is the best place for it. And it doesn't even have to be for the championship. Who's to say that the title has to be on the line, right? But what an atmosphere it's going to be in that building. The problem is the Grand Slam show is the beginning of August. So if he loses the belt next week, or if he loses the belt at Redemption, he won't be the champion, but you can still do the match. So we have to get that at some point, and that's going to be tremendous stuff. But this entire year, all of 2026 so far, MJF has been in the championship picture, whether as the champion or the challenger. He has been in all of these pay-per-view main events. He has been carrying this company. They have a lot of great wrestlers, but MJF is one of the few actual draws that they have. And you got to believe that he knows that, and Tony Khan knows that, and everybody else knows it too. And he's all over the show tonight. That tells you right there. They know that he is their big draw and attraction on the show. You could tell by how many segments they have devoted to him. But all year long, from the beginning of the year against Brody King, to the stuff with Kenny Omega, to the stuff with Darby Allin, and now to this stuff with Will Ospreay and Omega again, and Andrade, and all of these other people that are coming after him, it's been the MJF show. How do you not include him in the main event of the biggest show of the year? A three-way match would actually make a lot of sense. And I know Tony Khan doesn't do too many of them. He's not like a big triple threat guy or anything like that, but MJF, Kenny Omega, Will Ospreay, headlining all in the same match together, that would seem to make a lot of sense to me. But a lot can change in these next 2 months, and maybe a month from now it won't make sense. It'll make more sense to do one-on-one Omega and Ospreay. I'm just telling you, as I sit here right now, everything revolves around these three men. So a three-way match with all of them involved, that would be, I mean, if the option is to either leave MJF out or do a three-way, then you do a three-way. That's what I would do. Now, they opened after this. It was the World Championship on the line. MJF putting his title up against Mark Briscoe because Briscoe earned the win. Team Briscoe did. In the cage match on Sunday. And so we ended up here with this championship match. And again, after this match was over, we would learn why they were doing this at the beginning. Because I know some people were complaining, why are they opening the show with this? First of all, they did that with the MJF and Roosh match a few weeks ago. My first thought was, okay, there's a World Cup game starting at about 8 o'clock when Dynamite was going on the air. And maybe Tony was like, all right, better to do this at the beginning of the show and not wait too long until they get deeper into the game. But the real reason they did it is because they had to. To set up the angle at the end of the show, you had to get this match out of the way first. Briscoe bled early. I know. What a shock. He's kind of taken the mantle over from Jon Moxley. But MJF started biting at the bloody wound from the cage match, and he just opened up right away, blood pouring down the man's face. Briscoe pulled the table out from under the ring. He tossed MJF into the ring steps and then set the table up. He put MJF on top of the table. He went up top, but MJF quickly got off that friggin' table and he scurried up onto the apron and he tossed him down onto the apron, landed right spine first on the apron. Then he placed the table back under the ring. Big heat from the crowd for that. After a break, they fought on the outside. Briscoe attempted a J-driller on the exposed concrete because the mats had been pulled up. MJF, though, reversed out of that with a back body drop. He went for a tombstone on the concrete. Briscoe, though, escaped, slammed him on the concrete. Briscoe followed up with a cactus elbow off the apron, which is hilarious, actually. I just watched earlier today with lunch the Sting Cactus Jack match from Beach Blast in 1992. Because on the WCW channel, they had put together a few weeks ago a compilation of Sting matches from WCW in 1992, which is just, I mean, what a year for that company. In terms of like in-ring and the star power they had, there was so much good stuff. This is part 2. So months ago, they put a video out, like a 3-hour compilation. I think it was the Best of Sting, 1992, and that was only part 1. So I'm watching part 2 earlier, and it's Sting and Cactus. So you get the Cactus Elbow and all the Cactus Jack trademark spots. And so here's Mark Briscoe doing a Cactus Elbow off the... Mick Foley will likely be doing a Cactus Elbow soon enough in AEW off the apron. Mark Briscoe won't have to do it. Mick Foley himself will be doing it. You just wait. It's not going to be very much longer before we see that on TV. So back inside, Briscoe landed a high-angle Death Valley driver for a close near fall. He attempted a J-driller on the apron. MJF escaped. They ended up back out on the floor. Briscoe again set MJF up on the table. This time he hit a froggy bow off the top rope and connected. And it looked like MJF, I mean, he got put through that table. That thing exploded upon impact. He sent MJF inside. He covered him. And then MJF was able to get his foot on the ropes. So Briscoe hits another froggy bow. And then he hits the J-driller. And I was like, oh, man. Because I knew, it was only going to be for a near fall. And so sure enough, MJF kicks out. He's protected that move ever since his brother died. I don't remember offhand if anybody else has kicked out of it. It's possible somebody has, and I'm just not thinking of them. But I'm not sure. It's been largely protected since then. So I thought maybe he would tease it. He would go for it in this match. But since he's not winning the match, he won't actually hit it. I feel like it's one of those moves that should be protected. Like in WWE, if the fucking end of days for Baron Corbin can be protected for so many years, you can protect the J-driller. There are just certain moves I feel like that should be shielded from being kicked out of. So I was like, I don't know if I would have done that. But he kicked out of the J-driller. Dragged MJF to the corner. He set up for an avalanche J-driller. MJF escaped, and after some pin attempts, he delivered a heat seeker And he won the belt. Clean as a sheet. Right in the middle of the ring. MJF is still the AEW World Champion. They had a good match. All the insanity, though, that we just saw in the cage match on Sunday, this was a come down from that. So, yeah, he was bleeding and he did the froggy bow. That was a big spot, down through the table and everything. But again, we saw so much more in that cage match on Sunday that it was like, okay, we just saw a match like this, but with 10 other people involved doing stuff that was far crazier than what we got here. So this was good. This wasn't anything that I would put, up there as match of the year or anything like that, but they had a good match. But again, part of what also hurt it is that there was no drama about what the outcome was going to be. We literally just had a segment to open the show where they were already overlooking Mark Briscoe. Kenny Omega's telling him, like, if you get past Briscoe tonight, I'm like, all right, cut the shit. You know what I mean? So everybody already knew how this was going to end before the bell rang. So there was no real drama with the near falls. After the match, MJF took Briscoe and he punched him in the head with the Dynamite Diamond Ring. He shoved some officials around as they came in to try to, get him off of Briscoe. He was teasing that he was going to attack him yet again. Before he could, though, Kenny Omega, he ran out to make the save. Omega got on the mic. He challenged MJF tonight to another match. Because since you're so fond of ladders and tables and rings, let's do it tonight in the main event. So MJF said that it was bad enough he had to come to California to wrestle a white trash hick, but he couldn't believe that Omega thought he deserved another title shot after he beat him the last time. So he refused the match, and he said Omega is no god, he is a fraud. He's already beaten him twice, and he kicked out of the one-winged angel. Kicked out like it was nothing. But suddenly he had a change of heart. As he was walking out, he stopped. He had an epiphany. And he turned around, and he says, I got a great idea. He'll wrestle Kenny Omega next week, but under one condition. And that is that if MJF wins, the same thing happens to Kenny that happened to his friend Hangman Adam Page, which is where he can never again challenge for the World Championship in AEW. Same stipulation. So he gave Omega until the end of the night to make a decision. And I thought, well, that's an interesting little wrinkle, and I'm not talking about the stipulation. I'm talking about the timing of this match. Because I put it this way, I think most of us were expecting this match. Nobody was expecting it next week. And immediately my mind begins racing like, okay, you've got this redemption pay-per-view coming up in Montreal. There's no way that Kenny Omega is not in the main event wrestling for the World Championship. How are they going to come up with a finish to extend this out to the end of the month? That's really the only question. And like I said at the beginning, are we looking at a DQ? Are we looking at a count out? Would be so fucking lame. But are we looking at some sort of, and it doesn't even have to be a time limit draw. There could be something where they brawl off and do some kind of big spot and the referee calls for a stoppage, or they both fail to make it back in time. They're just kind of brawling all. Look, the show is Beach Break next week. And if they don't take advantage of where they're going to be, they're going to be right by the water. Like, I'm actually really looking forward to what this show looks like next week. I'm just happy they're finally doing a Beach Break show from the fucking beach, or a beach-like location, because this is a company that in the past has literally done Beach Break shows in Chicago in January. And I'm like, why the fuck do you even bother with it if you're not going to try to create an atmosphere that fits the theme of the show? And so they're finally doing that. Who's to say that Omega and MJF don't brawl into the fucking water or something? Remember when Al Snow and Bob Holly brawled into the Mississippi River? Maybe we get something like that. And there's no winner, and they have to run it back again. And I don't know if they would run it back with the same stipulation, but maybe they run it back again at Redemption. That's the only thing I'm trying to wrap my head around and try to figure out. How do they get out of this so they can do it again? Because to blow it off next week makes absolutely no sense. Right? So that's really the only question here. But that's a big match for them now to promote for next week's show. You know, the goal here is to keep people tuned into the television show. So how do you do that? Use your big guns. Use your biggest names. The AEW World title should not be defended on this show every single week. They don't need to be making a habit out of this. We just had a title match tonight. We got another one next week all of a sudden. So that's something that you can't be doing every single week. But I have to assume it's an angle that's going to lead to the main event in the next pay-per-view. So it's fine. So after this, backstage, Renee asked MJF about his big win. And are you prepared if Kenny Omega accepts your challenge for next week? MJF addressed Andrade first. Now, I want to stop here for a second. I want to point out to you that we are only talking about the third segment now on this show. MJF has been in all three segments. He was in the opening segment backstage, he was in a World Championship match, and he's in this segment here. And he wasn't done yet. So you're going to tell me that he isn't the big attraction, and not just because he's the champion. You're going to tell me he's not the big attraction and Tony Khan doesn't realize that MJF is his guy? Title or no title, MJF is his guy. That's why MJF belongs in the main event at All In. Nothing else really makes sense. Him in a random undercard match doesn't really make any sense. But he addressed Andrade first. He said revenge is coming for him and he won't even see it coming. Then he ran down the list of all the names that he's beaten over the years, including Cody Rhodes. He snuck his name in there on that list because why not? I was going to say, why not put the WWE champion on there, but he ain't the WWE champion right now, at least not for a few more days. And Kenny Omega was on there twice because he has beaten him twice. He then addressed Omega. He said he doesn't have to worry about him because he was literally gutless. I laughed at that. I'm sorry. I thought that was funny. Literally gutless. And he would not accept his challenge. Will Ospreay walked up and confronted Max. Said Max is going to break his neck sucking himself off like that. It's quite the visual. One that I did not need. He said, why? Why that stipulation? MJF said it's because I'm the champion, so I call the shots. And he says he'll see Ospreay's pale ass at Wembley Stadium. They're doing a good job of building the tension between these two, so much so that I want to see them in the ring. Triple threat. Triple threat. Triple threat. Make it happen. Winston says, could MJF have a realistic match with Gunther? Why the hell not? Why would he not be able to have a realistic match with Gunther? He can have a realistic match with anybody on that roster. He can have a realistic match with anybody on any roster. The answer is yes, of course. And it would be great. In the arena, Tony Schiavone was on stage and he introduced Andrade El Idolo. Walked out there and he said that he was done with the Don Callis family. And it was time to beat MJF and become the AEW World Champion. People in the crowd were chanting, how you know? How you know? It's catching on, man. So he looked in the camera, he goes, how you know? Then he got ambushed. So apparently he didn't know. He didn't know the ambush was coming from the Don Callis family. And they dragged him to the ring. Brian Cage, who looks as massive as ever. Somehow, I don't know, he keeps getting bigger. He keeps getting bigger, this guy. You know, I do have to say one thing. I didn't see the entire interview yet. Brian Cage sat down with Chris Van Vliet. And I did see part of the interview where he had like a belt sitting there that he had made, I think, a couple of years ago, like a big man belt. And he was talking about what the concept was behind it. And he hasn't been allowed or able to use it in AEW yet. But if you remember, the last time we saw him on the show, last week or the week before, he had, I think, a medal around his neck because he had done some sort of fitness or bodybuilding competition recently. And so he's on the show. He's got the medal around his neck. And this is not to say that WWE doesn't allow their talents to do stuff like, I think Tiffany Stratton either is or was in training recently for some sort of fitness competition. Oh, was not expecting that. Death Scythe activating Brie mode. Thank you, Death Scythe. But I do like how, like, you know, some of these guys are allowed to just go out and do stuff like that and then bring the shit with them on television. If you're going to be an independent contractor, well, you may as well actually treat them like independent contractors, which they're still not true independent contractors. But a lot of them do go out and do kind of outside things like that maybe they wouldn't be allowed to do if they went other places. So he's been doing a whole bunch of different things. And so he's doing these competitions and he's fucking gigantic. And I always just look at him and I go, man, like he's another one who's been snake bitten with injuries for whatever reason. And hopefully he can stay healthy because I do feel like he still has yet to have a real proper run in AEW. If Tony Khan wanted to give him a decent push like he was doing with Mark Davis, and right now, unfortunately, he's dealing with visa issues, so we haven't seen him in a month. Hopefully they get him back soon. This could be an opportunity now. You know, they kicked Andrade out. Mark Davis is out for the time being. Wardlow still isn't back. I don't know what's going on with him. Who knows? Maybe Brian Cage will get some sort of, halfway decent push. He's never going to get any sort of significant push in this company, but, you know, he's got to stay healthy. But he's out there. He's just fucking massive. And so, anyway, he's posing as Don Callis gets on the mic, and Callis is mocking him and making fun of him. And they end up announcing, by the way, that on Collision, which is airing tomorrow, we are going to get a match between Andrade and Brian Cage. So Brian Cage is going to be defeated by Andrade tomorrow. Again, not much of a push. But I'm just saying, like, I like that when he and Lance Archer were together for that period of time as the Murder Machines. I'm like, all right, that's a cool team. It's a cool name. We don't get a lot of team names like that these days. But again, I think he got hurt. And I think Archer got hurt too. So somebody got hurt. I don't know if they're going to put them back together. Maybe that's a good role for him to be in instead of just being on his own as a single. I don't know. But anyway, Callis, he told his men, get Andrade out of here because Kevin Knight has a match coming up for the TNT Championship. And so it was Kevin Knight defending the TNT title against the Blackheart, Lio Rush, who came out with a backpack. Now, when the match started, Knight opened the backpack very carefully. He didn't want a repeat of what happened on Sunday. I think it was Darby's. They all came out. All the members of Team Briscoe came out with backpacks. And every backpack had something different in it except Takeshita's, which had nothing except he pulled out the middle finger, which I thought was great. But the big spot in that match was Kevin Knight climbing to the top of the cage. There's a backpack up there, and he's going through it to see what's inside, and it explodes in his face. And he falls through a table down below. So he's treading very carefully as he's opening this thing. And he pulls out a blackened version of the Ring of Honor television title because Lio Rush just won the Ring of Honor TV title a few weeks ago. And whatever they did to it, it looks like it was burned in a fire. It's like it's completely just blackened now. And he was distracted by this. And he's looking at Don Callis outside, or whoever it was he was looking at. He got rolled up and almost got pinned here by Lio Rush. Jake Doyle, maybe he was looking at Jake. Jake Doyle was out there. He pulled Knight out to ringside to give him a breather. Lio did that creepy gallop that he does into a low suicide dive. Later on in the match, Doyle, he caught Lio diving off the top out to the floor, but he got sent into the ring post. But this did give Knight the opening that he needed, and he ended up putting the match away with a sit-out powerbomb and then the rock bottom. I don't know if he has a name for this, but the Uranagi for the win. Didn't go very long. He was kind of selling a knee injury. I think coming out of the cage match on Sunday was Kevin Knight. Again, the Blackheart stuff is not going to be for everybody. Your mileage will vary on what Lio Rush is doing right now. I like it. I find it amusing, kind of in the way I find Danhausen amusing in WWE. Although I do worry about overexposure. You got to be careful with that. But every single week, again, you listen to these crowds and they're chanting Lio Rush or they're chanting Lio, right? The gimmick is over. More people now are talking about Lio Rush and chanting his name than they ever did when he just came out there as plain old Lio Rush. That's all I'm saying. His part in that cage match was one of my favorite parts of that entire show on Sunday when they unzipped the bag and he came out. He popped out of the bag and everybody popped. And they did some comedy spots with him and then stuffed him back in the bag. He's great. He's committed to the gimmick. I enjoy it. I understand if not everybody is going to, but I am very happy that Tony Khan has been giving him consistent television time. When he started doing this, and this is something he was doing on the indies previously, but when he started doing this on television, Collision, I said, man, this could get over, but you got to get him on the show consistently. And he's done that. And he got a spot in one of the main events on Sunday on the pay-per-view. Just keep doing it. He'll get more and more over, a little bit more and a little bit more each week. I'm happy. I'm happy for him. He's doing a hell of a lot better now than he would have been doing a year ago. Nobody would have been talking about Lio Rush a year ago in this company. When the match was over, Darby Allin walked out onto the stage. He told Kevin Knight he wanted a shot at the TNT Championship. If Knight says no, he says, what happened at Forbidden Door will keep happening. So Knight said, look, I'm tired of dealing with your jackass stunts. He was about to accept, and Don Callis pulled the mic away from him. And Callis said that the stunt that Darby pulled that nearly killed Kevin Knight, that crossed the line. He crossed the line from wrestler to criminal at that point. And the Callis family does not reward criminal behavior. So he will never get a title shot so long as Don Callis has his say. So the same fucking stipulation that we were just talking about with the world title at the beginning of the show. I think we gotta cool it a little bit with this stipulation. Darby at that point had a big smile on his face, and he said that Knight just dug his own grave. And Callis was screaming that you should be in jail. You're a criminal. You should be in jail. And that's how they left it. They're going to do this at Redemption. Darby's going to get his match. I don't know if they're going to put the TNT title on him. I hope not. You know, he just had the world championship. What the fuck does he need the TNT title for? He's already had it twice before anyway. Kevin Knight is the one who they are trying to elevate. I don't see any reason. I know people are going to look at it and go, well, Darby has to get his revenge. And it's like, does he? Does he, though? Hopefully, at the end of all this, Kevin Knight is still in possession of that belt. I think anything else would be a mistake. They aired footage. It's like Big Show. It's like Big Show all those years ago. I have footage. When he won the Rumble that year. I have footage. See, in today's world, you know that's a very unrealistic segment because if it were a 2026 segment, there would be no physical media that Big Show would have. They're phasing out all of the physical media. PlayStation, Xbox. It's very sad. They're not phasing out Chris Jericho, though. He's still around. And so they showed footage of him tapping out JD Drake on Collision and using him and Tony Schiavone to send a message to Tommaso Ciampa, forcing them to say that he was better than Ciampa, which they did. So now we go backstage live. Ciampa was being interviewed by Renee when Jericho ambushed him. There was a trash can that just flew in from off camera, from out of nowhere, hit him right in the head. So they brawled outside into the parking lot where officials tried unsuccessfully to stop them and to pull them apart. Next week on Beach Break, these two are going to have a match. They announced this a couple of weeks ago. I don't know if there's any stipulation attached to the match, but they are going to have a match next week. And look, this is fine. You know, like Jericho, he had the feud with Ricochet. Now he's having a feud with Ciampa. This is what you would expect Jericho and hope Jericho would be doing. Because what's the alternative? Another faction? Jericho challenging for a championship? Nobody wants to see that. Jericho having matches with people that he's never worked with before is perfectly fine. You don't have to be a huge fan of the feud, but I would much rather he be doing this than the alternative. We go backstage. Renee, who had a very busy night, she walked into the Elite locker room. She found the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega deep in discussion here about what choice Omega would be making later in the show. Has he made a decision yet? Matt Jackson said that 2 Elite comrades have already fallen to this stipulation, those being, of course, Cody Rhodes and Hangman Adam Page, while Nick Jackson said, Kenny's got this. Omega said he's not made his decision yet, said that if he can't challenge again for the world title, what's left for him to do? When Omega looks back on his first reign as champion, he says he needed help. He had to go to a dark place to get it done. So if he takes this match, he wants to do this on his own. And the Bucks say they support him no matter what he decides. Yeah, I saw the PlayStation story. It is bullshit. It is bullshit. Aren't they, when GTA 6 comes out, aren't they selling a physical box? And when you open the box, there's like a code inside? You're buying a box, basically. It sounds so preposterous. It's just so ridiculous. Will Ospreay and Jon Moxley, they were tag team partners tonight against your favorite team, everybody. Your favorite flavor of ice cream. The Swirl. Still one of the most horrendous names in all of wrestling. Blake Christian and Lee Johnson with Jay Lethal in their corner. Marina Shafir at one point during this match gave Lethal a suplex. I think it was a T-bone. She T-boned him, I think, on the floor. Blake Christian, he springboarded into the ring. Ospreay shoved Moxley out of harm's way and caught Christian on the way down with a cutter, which led to Moxley and Ospreay hitting a stereo paradigm shift hidden blade combo for the win. Hey, Randy Bobandy, no message. Just showing love with a 1999. Randy is, he's in like a competition here with Death Sight tonight. This is better than Omega and Ospreay. These two going at it here. Tooth and nail. Ospreay had the Death Rider patch on his tights right by his right thigh. So he is wearing it for how long is the question. When does this implode? We all know it's going to. It's only a matter of time. Post-match, we had comments here from, I think this was recorded on Sunday, backstage with the still AEW Tag Team Champions, Adam Copeland and Christian Cage. And Christian asked, like, what the hell is the deal with Jay White? Copeland said he owed him a favor, and they're even now. Christian said that before Jay White collected a paycheck sitting at home for a year, Christian had a serious problem with him, and he still does. So then Christian walked away, and he left Copeland alone with Renee, and Cope was like, goodbye. And the fans in the arena laughed. Copeland, by the way, is going to be tagging with Jay White and his crew on Collision tomorrow against Shane Taylor Promotions. I assume they're taping Collision tonight, right? I mean, I don't think they said Collision tomorrow is live. So I want to say they're taping it tonight, I believe. And we just unlocked the bonus Be the Booker goal, thanks to Randy Bobandy. He put us over the top. Like a beast. Thank you, Randy. Bonus Be the Booker. Now, where are we on the main goal? That's the question. I don't have it in front of me. I shall check. I shall check really quickly for you. We're still behind. 363, 475. So we only need a little over 100 more likes. Can we get 100 more likes to get us to where we need to be? You figure that out. I'm going to let you know what happened next, which is it was time to breathe with the Switchblade. He's back, finally. It only took a year plus to get him back, but he's back. And he was out next with the rest of the Collision Cowboys here. Juice Robinson, Ace Austin, and the Guns. It was 459 days away from him. We had 459 days with no Jay White. Mystic J is mystified by the fact that we are getting a bonus Be the Booker on a Dynamite stream. I know. It's crazy. It's crazy. I'm telling you, man, nobody gave a shit going into Forbidden Door. Nobody gave a shit. Now that Forbidden Door is in the rear view, and we are heading into this first ever Redemption pay-per-view, heading into Wembley, business is feels like it's starting to pick up. This is what I have been waiting for. Put that in the rear view, and let's get to what matters here. And I feel like now we're finally entering that territory. But he said a lot can change in 459 days. It seemed like the people hated and couldn't stand the Death Riders, but now they like them. And they also love that fraud, but he's not here to talk about him, Billy. He didn't expound upon why Will Ospreay is a fraud. Just because the hardcore diehards know and the New Japan fans know doesn't mean that everybody else knows. He said he's out here to talk about Austin Gunn, Colton Gunn, Ace Austin, and Rock Hard Juice Robinson, and the Switchblade. Now he also has a question, and he's going to say it properly. Who let the dogs out? And everybody in the crowd, they barked. When did that song come out? That I know that was the song for the Mets. That had to be 99 or 2000. That's how old that song is. It was one of those 2 seasons for the Mets that they played that just nonstop. That fucking song it lives rent-free in my head. Of course, he's also talking about Clark Connor's Gabriel Kid. Or no, he said not Gabriel. Gabrielle. Gabrielle Kid. And his good friend David Finlay. They both entered the New Japan dojo at the same time. They trained together. They even learned each other's tricks. But things change. Finlay was born into this business. 4th generation. But it doesn't change the fact that Finlay is still just a Nepo baby bitch boy. There's another Nepo baby reference. How many Nepo baby references are we up to this year in wrestling and promos? Too many. But Finlay's only been here for 4 months, and the stench has lingered on for far too long. So someone has to get rid of that, and why not the Switchblade? It says, Finlay, what happened to you at Forbidden Door is going to keep happening if you want to get in my way. And dogs, and for that matter, anyone else who wants to step up to us, the Collision Cowboys and the Switchblade have 2 words for you. Guns up. And everybody did the chant. They were super over here. Everybody was doing the chant, man. They were very happy to see Jay White back. I thought this was a good promo. And again, I put my hands together here and I pray to the wrestling gods that this man can stay healthy, because if he can stay healthy, he can contribute a lot. And there are some great matches that he can partake in. And so let's hope. Let's hope. I don't know 6 months from now. I don't know what Jay White will be doing. The roster is so loaded. He can be anywhere on the card. They have so many championships. I mean, take your pick. He could be competing for any of them. Is he going to be a heel? Is he going to be a babyface? Right now, he's a babyface. Obviously, the next match to do is him against David Finlay. I would think that we're going to be getting that match very soon, one-on-one. But because they're both part of a group, we'll get some sort of tag match along the way. But the match to do is going to be Finlay and Jay White one-on-one. They closed the show in terms of in-ring with the 6-way survival of the fittest match. Crown a new TBS champion. We are guaranteed to have a new champion here on this show. Kris Statlander, Hikaru Shida, Persephone, Harley Cameron, Queen Aminata, and Maika representing Stardom. She picked up a win over Sky Blue. They had a qualifying match on the pre-show on Sunday, so she stuck around for a few extra days before she flies back to Japan, and so they wanted a little bit of more extra international flavor, I guess, beyond Shida and Persephone in this match, because she's the CMLL Women's World Champion, so we got Maika. Now, as I said at the beginning, the reason that we were even in this situation in the first place is because Willow Nightingale supposedly got injured and was forced to vacate her TBS championship. She was pulled from the Owen, which is how we ended up with Mercedes Moné in there as a wild card entry, which is probably why a lot of people think that maybe the injury was a work and it was not a shoot. And I can't sit here and tell you that 100%. I believe it was a shoot, but given that she is supposed to be coming back any week now, I don't know what to believe. I tell you what I believe. I believe that we're going to get her back in the Casino Gauntlet match on Dynamite next week. And my pick to win is Willow Nightingale. She hasn't even been announced for it yet, but I'm going to throw that out there and say that she wins the Gauntlet. She gets Techlit Redemption. That's my prediction on that. Survival of the Fittest. Originally, this was a concept that dates back to 2004 in Ring of Honor. It's nothing new, but it's the first time that we've seen one on an AEW show. They just did one actually in May. I believe whatever was the Supercard of Honor, whatever that Ring of Honor pay-per-view was in the middle of May. I think it was May 15th. And Athena defended her Forever Championship in a Survival of the Fittest match. And of course, she beat everybody and she kept the belt. So this is the first time we're seeing it in an AEW ring. Pinfalls and submissions only until one woman is left standing, so basically no disqualification. Harley Cameron formed an alliance early on here with Persephone. That didn't last very long. Persephone snuck up behind her when Harley had her back turned. She was on the ropes. She grabbed her under her arms, and she dropped her and folded her up with a razor's edge, and she pinned her. So Harley Cameron, see you later. First elimination here of this match. Maika and Shida, they had a back and forth. Shida tried to use her kendo stick. She doesn't leave home without it. Statlander, though, grabbed it away from her. Persephone then grabbed the kendo stick and she yanked Statlander off the apron to the floor. So they were beefing pretty early in this match. Well, I mean, we'll come back to the two of them later on. Shida used a referee distraction to roll up Maika and pin her. That was the second elimination here of this match. Aminata missed a double stomp to Shida from the top rope, and Shida landed a running knee strike. Aminata came back with a headbutt. Persephone then rolled up Aminata as she was trying to follow up with Shida, and she stole the pin. That was Persephone's second elimination here of this match. So that left her, Shida, and Statlander as the final three. Hey, Darkstar, thank you. This is the best stream in the IWC. I like the sound of that. And Warhawk says, I am promoting the stream all over the place. Please do. Tell your friends. Tell your family. Tell your enemies. Tell everybody. I love it. So we're down to the final three. And Shida and Persephone, they joined forces to try to take down Statlander. Statlander ended up taking them both down with a back elbow. So there were a whole series of pin attempts here. Statlander eliminated Persephone with a modified roll-up, and that took the wind out of my sails. Because once Aminata got pinned, because I thought they were going to give her the win. Aminata is another one who unfortunately has been snake-bitten with some injuries. She had a neck injury late last year. I think there was some other injury prior to that, but the neck injury was severe enough that she ended up missing many months. Took her out of blood and guts. And it sucked because she was getting a push. She was getting a bit of a push at that time. So I just thought, man, this would be a good way to get her going again. You know, she's been back a few months, but she hasn't done anything of any note. And I feel like that TBS championship could really, benefit someone who has not been a world champion. It can benefit someone who is not in that upper mix. It can help elevate a new talent in the women's division. Why not Aminata? I just didn't think it was going to be Persephone just because she has the CMLL title. Maybe they don't want, maybe politically there's a reason why they wouldn't want to put a mid-card belt on her if she's got the world championship and another promotion, and then maybe losing becomes an issue. You never know. I mean, these companies, AEW has these partnerships, but still, there's a lot of politics involved. And who's winning and who's losing, and they're very sensitive about that sort of thing. So who knows? Maybe there was a political reason for her not to win. But if it wasn't going to be Aminata, I was kind of hoping it would be Persephone. And when she got dumped and we were down to the final two, I was like, Now I'm pulling for Statlander. It's Kris Statlander or Hikaru Shida here. They were the final two former friends who have been feuding over the past couple of months. Although I think they had their blow-off match a few weeks ago on Collision. Maybe a month ago. Shida planted Statlander with a Falcon Arrow for a close near fall. Shida went out to the floor to grab the TBS belt. She attempted to use it. Statlander knocked it away, and Shida applied an ankle lock. Statlander got to the ropes, but she gets to the rope, but she's kind of hanging out of the ring. And so here comes Persephone, who never left ringside, and she flies by like a drive-by with the belt, and she blasts Statlander right in the head with the TBS championship. Statlander is out. Shida drags her back to the center of the ring. She reapplies the submission, and she's out. So the referee has no choice but to call for the stoppage and hand Hikaru Shida her very first TBS championship. She's been world champion before, but she's never been TBS champion until now. The match itself, I thought it was solid. It was not as good as the opening match. So I thought it was solid. Persephone was the standout for me. I'm a big fan of her work. I think she can be a really big player in that women's division. She could be a player in any division, really. But once Aminata got bounced, I was really hoping she would win. And so I wasn't thrilled with the fact that they went with Shida for the win here. This doesn't do anything for me. And I don't think it really does a whole lot for the TBS title. And maybe she won't have it for very long. Maybe she'll end up losing it to Kris Statlander. Maybe the two of them are going to have a match at some point. But it just feels to me like the match to do now is going to be Statlander and Persephone. I mean, I suppose after that they could get back to Shida and Statlander, but it's not like it was lighting the world on fire the first time they did it. So I don't really care to see them revisit it. I'm down for a Statlander Persephone match, though. I'm all in on that. So that should be good. But Shida as champion, it doesn't do anything for me. You know, I think they made the wrong choice here. There were better options to go with. So that was kind of a downer. I mean, again, even Statlander, who's been TBS champion before, even her winning the belt back would have at least given her something to do. Or she could be defending the belt against Persephone, but they went in a different direction with it, and in my opinion, not a great one. Now, after a break, Kenny Omega, he was ready to give us an answer for MJF's challenge, as if it was ever going to go another way. Omega was about to make his entrance. They had a camera on him, filming him from the back. And you can hear them play his music out in the arena. Will Ospreay shows up, though. And he says, cut it. Cut his music. He told Kenny he wants him to win the world title and wrestle. He wants to wrestle him at Wembley Stadium, but does he really think this is a good idea? And Omega takes offense to this and he says, are you trying to tell me that you don't think I can do it? Will says, well, of course, I believe in you, but I don't think that you believe in yourself. So Omega told him he was out of time. He's out of time. This could be my last shot. What he's standing on right now, this is my death ground. So he's going to go out guns blazing. Hopefully he's got Will's support. Ospreay tells him, look, you always have my support. And the two of them hugged and they queued up Kenny's music again. He made his way out to the ring by himself. And so here we go. It was a Kenny Omega show closing promo. What's he going to say? What's he going to do? He says, believe it or not, he's done this for almost 30 years, more than half his life. There's been no greater passion or pleasure than stepping through these ropes and giving the fans everything he's got. Whether it be when he was 14 years old or 42 years old as a broken down man, the fans still get the same 100% Kenny Omega every single time. He's won titles, he's broken records that may never themselves be broken. He's had a career that he can look back on fondly, but there's this selfish part about him that he knows it's just not enough. A part of him that thinks that there's still a little bit left in the tank, that if he can believe, if Will Ospreay can believe, if the Young Bucks can believe, if all you people can believe, we believe. We believe. Are we believing in Joe Hendry anymore, or has that pretty much died? I feel like that's kind of died out. Hopefully he can kind of rekindle that. Joe's a good guy. He's a nice guy, but boy, has he been cooled off. Anyway, he's getting the crowd into it, right? Everyone believes in Kenny Omega. Then he knows that he could be a champion the fans can be proud of, and he can go to Wembley Stadium representing AEW, where the best wrestle, and where he can face Will Ospreay, and all he has to do is put it all on the line against MJF. If he fails, he will become just like Cody, just like Hangman, just another man that can never challenge for that belt again. And the question is the cost too high? The answer, he said, is no. You want me to put it all on the line, Max? Says if he loses this time, we'll never see him in a title match ever again. And boy, wouldn't that make MJF happy. But here's the one thing that he hasn't considered. He's still the best bout machine. He's still the cleaner. He's still, to some out there, the god of pro wrestling. So is he going to accept his offer? The answer is yes. So next week, bring the Triple B, bring yourself, and get ready to pass over what's belonged to him since the last time they wrestled. And he hits his closing line, bids you adieu and all this other stuff, only for MJF then to ambush him from behind. And MJF was still in his bloody gear from earlier in the show. He pulled out the Dynamite Diamond ring. He went to go use it. Omega double-legged him to the mat. Security and referees, they flood into the ring to separate these two. Omega, he breaks free. He jumps on the pile in one corner. They get separated. Now it's MJF's turn to break free, and he dives on the pile in the corner, and then they separate them again. Rinse, repeat.
I am the learning tree.
We've seen so many of these types of segments.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Death Scythe. And that is how the show went off the air. So we got the decision from Kenny Omega. The big babyface makes the only babyface choice that there was to make, which is, yes, of course, I accept your challenge, and you and I are going to wrestle for the World Championship next week. And so we got a big-ass main event for Dynamite on the Beach Break show next week, and it just has to go in a way that will lead to a rematch at Redemption. There is no other main event that makes sense for Redemption. The entire Kenny Omega story, the entire arc that they've been telling with this man since he came back at the beginning of the year, and since he had that last match with MJF and lost in Vancouver, is one of redemption. It's why he's mentioned the word redemption in his own promos before. The entire pay-per-view is set up for Kenny Omega to get his redemption against MJF. For it to happen next week in Florida and not in Montreal does not make any sense. So they have to figure out a way to get out of this and extend this out. And the logical way to do it would be either a total non-finish, or I guess this would be a non-finish. You go to a time limit draw. Would they dedicate 60 minutes of TV time to this one match? Well, let's see. What have they announced so far for next week? They've announced MJF and Omega for the World Championship. They've announced Jericho against Ciampa. They've announced Takeshita against Kyle Fletcher. They're doing that match next week for the International Championship. And they're doing a women's casino gauntlet. And we don't know how long the gauntlet could be over in 2 minutes. The gauntlet could go 20 minutes. We don't know. But they're doing a gauntlet to crown a new number one contender for the women's world title at Redemption. That's a lot. And I don't see them sacrificing, because those are some big matches. I don't think they're just going to, we ran out of time, we'll bump it off the show for next week. If we assume we're getting all of this, I find it hard to believe that Omega and MJF are going to go the full 60. But that would be one way out of it. And that way we have no winner. They got to run it back again at Redemption. I'm not expecting a title change next week. That's too big to be doing on Dynamite. We already had a world championship change in April on Dynamite when Darby Allin beat MJF. So having Kenny Omega beat MJF for the belt on Dynamite doesn't make any sense at all to me. It's more about how do they go about doing this finish. But that's still a huge main event for next week. Hopefully they will close the show with that and not open the show with that. And I'm also, again, looking forward to just seeing what this Beach Break show looks like now that they're in an actual kind of outdoor summer location. I don't know why it took them this long to do that, but there's some big matches on the show next week. So that's good. That's good. I'm excited to see what they do with some of that stuff. Collision tomorrow. is a pretty big card. I mean, in terms of like how much shit they're stacking on there. I mean, this is what the lineup is. Andrade against Brian Cage. The Death Riders, going to be Claudio and Pac taking on Shingo Takagi and Drilla Maloney. A lot of these talents are sticking around for a few extra days. That's why they're going to be on these shows. Athena is going to be wrestling, is it Rena? Representing Stardom. Is that how you pronounce it? She's from Stardom. The winner of that match is going to get the number 1 spot in the Women's Casino Gauntlet match on Dynamite next week. Also, Maya World, who is not on the show tonight, but she will be on the show tomorrow. She's going to be wrestling Julia Hart for the number 2 spot in the Gauntlet, which means that we could very well open the Casino Gauntlet next week with Athena and Maya World. Teacher and student. Could be 1 and 2. And honestly, looking at this, it should absolutely be Athena and Maya World. Like, it can't be anything else. You're not going to have Athena and Julia Hart. You're not going to have Rena and Maya World. No one gives a shit. They want to see Athena and they want to see Maya World. Those are the 2 that should open that match next week. What else we got here? We got Adam Copeland and the Bang Bang Gang are going to be taking on Shane Taylor Promotions. Kyle Fletcher is wrestling El Phantasmo. And Speedball Mike Bailey, Mystico, and Bandito are taking on the Rascals. That's a lot of shit on Collision tomorrow. So if you are so inclined, the show is airing a couple days early. The reason for this is because there's some sort of new... Now, is it boxing? It's some sort of new fighting league that is starting... And they're airing these events on some Saturdays on TNT going forward. So there's going to be some weeks where at least once, if not twice a month, I think for the foreseeable future, Collision is probably going to get preempted to Thursday. And somewhere Carlos Silva is just throwing furniture all over the place. Because if he is to be believed, that is the reason why he pulled those AEW talents from those independent matches they were having with TNA stars a few months ago, because apparently this is a declaration of war from which of course it's a bullshit excuse. So just roll with it. But I'm sure he won't be happy though, because it is going to be more competition for Impact. But again, it doesn't sound like an AEW decision if they're airing this new fight league on Saturdays, and there's not a whole hell of a lot they can do. Is it boxing? It is boxing. Was the world asking for another boxing league? We have Zuffa boxing, and now we have whatever the fuck this is. I didn't know boxing was even still that popular. So those are your lineups for the upcoming shows. A big improvement this show was tonight over a lot of their recent post-pay-per-view Dynamites. So keep it up. Hopefully they will improve from here, and I am genuinely looking forward to the show next week. Now, the likes goal here for this stream was 475 likes. We are currently at 443. We're close. We're close, but you're guaranteed 1 round regardless, because you guys have been absolute monsters tonight with the gifted memberships, which are always welcome here, and the super chats, which I'm going to read right now. Got a bunch of them to go through, and then we got Be the Booker. So we're going to have some fun here. You'd love to see it. We'll start with Death Scythe, who I think Death Scythe alone, what is it, 26 channel memberships gifted here so far tonight? Says, I think Will Ospreay should beat both MJF and Kenny Omega at All In, because it could be AEW's version of Benoit winning the World Heavyweight Championship at WrestleMania 20 and Daniel Bryan winning the WWE title at WrestleMania 30. It could be, but I'm not even comparing it to anything else. I just think logically it would make the most sense to have all 3 of them in the ring together. All 3 of them have had issues recently. All 3, I think, belong in the title match on that show. Most of all, MJF. He's put in the work this year. He's been their guy. He belongs in the main event at Wembley Stadium. Not to win, but he should be in that match. Also, he says, if I was asked about, if I was asked how I would have booked Theory's Money in the Bank cash-in. Talking about Austin Theory now. It was on Logan Paul's podcast. Says, I know people are going to laugh, but at WrestleMania 39, after he beat Cena on night 1 and now he's overconfident, he comes out on night 2, cashes in during the main event. You lost me, brother. You lost me there. But let's continue on. Then gets pinned by Roman, and it accomplishes a few things. It gives Theory's win over Cena meaning. It gives Cody an out, and Cody can say that Roman didn't beat me. He beat Austin Theory, and I would have won had Theory not gotten involved. Overall, it gives Theory's failed cash-in a purpose by progressing the Cody and Roman story. And I know Theory would have technically main evented WrestleMania, but it's not like we haven't had people who had no business in the WrestleMania main event before. Well, first of all, that would be a very cheap way for Roman to keep his title, but is it really that much worse than Solo Sikoa spiking Cody in the throat? But it would completely bury Austin Theory. There are ways to have a failed cash-in that don't completely bury the person, and I just feel like, yes, he's cashing in the WrestleMania main event, but he's going to look like such a fucking loser. And so if I was going to have him get a win at WrestleMania over John Cena, I would not want to waste that. And you're wasting it by sending him out there like a fucking geek the next night to get pinned. To me, you're wasting whatever value a John Cena WrestleMania win would have had for Austin Theory. So, like, I get your logic behind it, but I still think it's a flawed idea. I would not have done that. We got Give Me Back Shot Solomonster. No. Says Roman retires tonight. What happens then to the business and his family? The business continues on. The business will always continue on. WWE's business will take a dip without Roman around. But the bloodline is vast. There are lots of bloodline members, and so I think the bloodline would live on. I think Jacob Fatu would be in that title spot. I don't even mean literally with the title. I mean like that headline, that title spot in the family. There's been rumors of Zilla possibly signing with WWE soon, and it doesn't take a genius to figure out where he's going to ultimately end up in this, right? If he comes to WWE, like, gee, I wonder what they'll have him doing. So the business will go on. The business will continue to generate lots and lots of money. The bloodline will continue to generate money. But they'll take a hit. You know, Roman's their guy, and if he's not around anymore, they will take a hit. But I think they'll be okay. Deathside says, also, I forgot at least Theory would have cashed in for the undisputed WWE Universal Championship in the main event of WrestleMania instead of cashing in for the US title on a random episode of Raw. True, but still, you're still burying him. You're still making him look terrible by doing it this way. Nico says, hey, Solo, happy Bobby Bonilla Day. That's right. Yes. July 1st is Bobby Bonilla Day every year. Former New York Met, Bobby Bonilla, because of the way they structured or restructured his deal 25 years ago, or whatever it is. Actually, more than that. He gets a check for over $1 million every year. He just walks to his mailbox. Imagine just every year on July 1st, you get to walk to your mailbox and you pull the little door down. I don't have one of those mailboxes. Those are the mailboxes in like fucking Mayberry. The mailbox here is a little bit different. You got to pull the thing up and then you kind of reach in. You never know what's going to be in there. But imagine you reach in and you pull out your annual check for $1 million. Not bad. Not bad. Says, I don't know if you saw this, but this Friday, Backrooms is having its Everything Must Go edition release with 15 minutes of additional footage and a post-credit scene. I did hear about this. So is it 15 more minutes of just exploring various rooms here in the movie, or 15 minutes of what exactly? That's what I'm not sure of. Boots says, I'm hoping he has direct deposit by now. And maybe he's like, Venmo me, bro. You can just Venmo me. Zelle. Maybe he went to the Mets and said, hey, here's my email address. You can Zelle me the money. Yeah, but where's the fun in that? That would be like the best trip every single year. The trip from your front door to the mailbox. I wouldn't want to give that up. The only thing is, a check that big, you're not exactly going to take a picture with it and do a mobile deposit. There are mobile deposit limits. I don't think you can mobile deposit a check for over $1 million. So he would have to then walk to the bank. It would be a whole pain in the ass. You're probably right. Cash App? Yeah, he could do Cash App. Nico says, brought a ticket. I think he means bought a ticket to see you on the Friday SMDO. What? See, I asked this in the chat. What is SMDOS? Bought a ticket already to see you on the Friday SMDOS. I don't know what that means. Nico, you got to explain to me what you're trying to say there. Death Scythe, what is your favorite wrestling video package? Mine is Jeff Hardy's Rooftops by Lost Profits. Yeah, well, it's a shame about Lost Profits. It's a reason why you'll never hear that again. You can look it up. All I will say about that is fantastic song, great band, but an evil, vile... Yes, here we go. Okay. An evil, vile, disgusting monster of a lead singer. May he burn in hell. Yes. Unfortunately, there will always be a dark cloud now over their usage of Lost Profits. That's a good one, though. Not my favorite. I have a few favorites, actually. I mean, of course, Austin Rock My Way, WrestleMania 17 is just iconic. Of course. The Daniel Bryan Monster one from WrestleMania 30 is fantastic. A little jealous, though, because if I ever decided to start training and wanted to follow in his footsteps, he stole my song. That's the song I would want them to use for me in my video package. But I forgive him. But that's a great one. And then the other one I always come back to is Running Up That Hill. The cover version that they use for the WrestleMania 26 rematch with Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker. It's fantastic stuff. Skywalker says, wishing you a late happy Bobby Bonilla Day. Thank you, brother. I love how everyone's wishing, like all day, like on Twitter and everything, everyone's wishing me happy Bobby Bonilla Day. I'm like, I'm not getting a check for $1 million. But see, I got people like Boots, and we got Randy Bobandy, and we got Death Scythe. You know, it may not be a check for $1 million, but you guys are putting a smile on my face, so I appreciate that. Do you mean Monster by Skillet? No, I mean Monster by Imagine Dragons. Monster by Skillet is a different song that they used, I think, for a different pay-per-view. Johnny Burney says, Jay is back and got the fans to do his own fandangoing. I was in the crowd that night for that post-WrestleMania Raw where everybody was doing the fandango. That was popular for a hot minute. Deathside says, also on Monday, I'm surprised Paul Heyman didn't quote JBL and say to Austin Theory, you can't polish a turd, I tried. As if he hasn't been buried enough. Must we bury him deeper beneath the earth? We got dirty dried chicken without flavor, which sounds awful. $5 super chat. Hello, Solomonster and everyone in the chat. Continue to hit that like button. I'll be back next Wednesday. Happy 4th of July week and go Team USA. yes, I'm wishing you and everybody else a very happy holiday weekend. Hopefully you are doing something interesting and exciting and not working like I will be, preparing for the Sunday show. But may you all have a great holiday weekend. PGH Chris TV, MJF versus Ospreay versus Kenny at Wembley. Great review. I agree, though. I think a three-way is the way to go, and we very well may end up with one. That's my hope. Iron Gaijin says, deal with it. With a $2 super chat. How would you grade AEW from January to June of this year? If I had to ascribe a grade, probably maybe something like a B+ would be fair. I mean, there have been weeks of Dynamite that are tough to get through, right? You get great wrestling matches every fucking week. Sometimes that's just not enough. You look at an episode like Dynamite tonight, and there was enough story to go with like what we got in the opening match, and that's the sort of thing I want to see them, do more of. But I can't say, oh yeah, A+, everything's been great. No, because there's been some boring shit too that hasn't really interested me. Something like a B+ I think would be fair. It's not a bad grade. Hey, Justin G says, happy Canada Day and Bret Hart Day. That's right, July 2nd. It is officially July 2nd. It is Bret Hart's birthday. How old is Bret Hart now? 60... What? Man, I should know this. Today should be a national holiday. Just for that alone. Happy Canada Day, though, to all the Canadians out there. Linklex with a $9.99 says Tekla should have been in the women's Owen, so her and Mercedes could have their rematch a few weeks later. And Will was supposed to put aside his world title match. Who taught Tony Khan how to book? We got a funny guy here in the super chats. Yes, Tekla should have had a spot in the tournament. Is that how we're doing things now? Boots with the 100. I'm going to give him this again because how can I not? $100 bomb from earlier. Let's start the second half of 2026 with a bang. Thank you, Boots. You are awesome. But you already knew that. And Justin G says he is 68 years. Justin's not 68, but Bret Hart. Maybe he is. I shouldn't say that, but Bret Hart is 68 years old. God bless him, man. So many of his family members and his friends and coworkers, they never made it to their 68th birthday. Every time I see that image, there's this image from an episode of Raw where all the members of the Hart Foundation are in the ring and they're all holding up each other's arms. And the entire image is black and white except Bret. Bret's the only one in color because Bret's the only one that's still alive. Owen is gone, Bulldog is gone, Anvil is gone, Pillman is gone. And it's depressing as fuck to look at it. But I'm glad that Bret is still around and kicking, man. He is the GOAT. Randy Bobandy with a $50 Gunther bomb. Wednesdays are known as the slow day. Let's hope this gets the ball rolling. It ain't no slow day tonight. You guys made sure of that. And I believe we just hit the likes goal, which means we're getting a double. We're getting a double. Be the booker. I love it. The real CSO2 with a $4.99 says, running back a stipulation they did 7 months ago. And people say WWE is lazy and out of ideas. They literally made the match next week predictable. Well, I'm not going to say it's predictable because I don't think Kenny Omega is winning the title next week. I think that would be stupid for him to win the belt on Dynamite next week. That would be dumb. You know what we didn't talk about? The possibility that he keeps bringing up Hangman and he keeps mocking Hangman for the fact that he can't challenge for the championship again. Are we looking at a Hangman return as part of all this? if he wins the championship, let's say not next week, let's say they find a way to extend it out to Redemption. Is that where Hangman returns? Does Hangman play a role in MJF's downfall as revenge for what MJF did to him? We already know the history and the friendship that Kenny and Hangman have together. He also says, but since this is AEW, it's okay. Well, it's part of the story. I assume it's going to play out next. Again, we may get the return of Hangman here. If they could tie it all together, then it'll make sense. If they don't, then it won't. It's very simple. The Uffman says, by the time you read this, happy birthday to the best there is, was, and ever will be. Bret Hart, 69. 69. So I'm getting mixed messages here. I had one person say he's 68, and now apparently he's 69, which is a hell of an age. Krispy Kreme with a $4.99. Hey, Solomonster, thank you so much for all your hard work. I love all your content. Just wanted to show some love. I appreciate that. I appreciate that, Krispy Kreme. I'm glad you enjoy it. I got a really nice email earlier from someone who said they had never...
I am the learning tree.
They never liked the learning
Thanks,
tree.
guys.
Thank you, Death Side. They said they had never heard any of my shows before or any of my content. They became aware of me through the Uncrowned show that I do. And so now they're, sub to the channel and they're following all the other content. And, that was one of the goals and the hopes when I accepted the offer to start doing the Uncrowned show in the first place. It was like, there's two separate audiences there. Although I know a lot of you enjoy the Uncrowned show, and I love the overlap. I love the people that are like, man, I'm going to support. Because there is, overlap with some of the news. It's unavoidable. Like, there's overlap with some of the news. How do you cover the news, but do it in a way that's not exactly the same as you do it on Sunday? It's not easy. There tends to be more stuff that comes out on Monday, and so that helps, stuff that drops on Monday that I didn't get a chance to cover on Sunday. This weekend was a great example of it because I didn't go live for Forbidden Door, and I'm so fucking happy I didn't because, oh my God, the fucking main event didn't go out to the ring until 12:13 in the morning. Like, fuck you. Would have ruined my Monday if I would have stayed up to first go live at fucking 1:15 a.m. I'm so happy I didn't do that. I'm like, why? We'll just save it as an exclusive this week for Uncrowned. And so that's what we did. So that's also the benefit of doing the show on Tuesday, where it comes in handy sometimes. But anyway, I'm glad you guys are enjoying the content. Hog Dog, thank you very much. Deathside says, for those who say it was ridiculous that Steve Austin won the 97 Royal Rumble and did not get a WWF title shot, I disagree. He got something better. He got Bret Hart. Well, now you're just kissing up to Bret Hart now. Well, the reason he didn't get a title shot is because he cheated. He did not technically win the Royal Rumble. He was eliminated. He didn't deserve it. He didn't deserve a title shot. It's not Bret's fault that the referees were so incompetent they didn't see him dump the man out to the floor. Randy Bobandy with a $9.99. My coworker gave me a prick. My coworker, let's start over again. My coworker gave me a pack of Pokemon cards. Thank God Solo doesn't work with me because he would have taken those immediately because Pokemon cards are not allowed at work. That is true. That is true. They are not allowed at day camp. You remember that story. I was a very strict counselor. Those are the rules. And they're not allowed at work either. Walter Palacios, here's to a better month. Always here on Wednesdays. Walter, I salute you, sir. Thank you. Walter is reporting for duty every Wednesday. Warhawk Rambo, aces and eights, owns the bloodline. Sorry, not sorry. Well, let's not get carried away now here. You know what? I always used to compliment them on this one thing, no matter what. No matter how awful some of the segments were, they had kick-ass music. They had really good theme music. I enjoyed that theme more than I do this Def Rebel garbage that we have now. Was it Dixie's husband, Serge, who was doing most of the music at that point? I know he was involved in the music during that time period. Good job, Serge. Can we get Serge back to do the music for WWE? Death Scythe. Mox is going to goad Ospreay into putting his title shot on the line against him at Redemption, isn't he? I sure as hell hope not. That would be incredibly stupid. Them wrestling is not anything that would be too crazy, but him agreeing to put his shot on the line, that would be very dumb. And I say the same thing about anybody, like any Royal Rumble winner who would be willing to do that. Like Shawn Michaels did that one year. He put his shot on the line against Owen Hart because that's what the babyface does. I'm like, yeah, if your babyface is a fucking moron, you just went through this grueling tournament and you're going to allow yourself to be goaded into putting your championship match on the line in one match. You're an idiot. You deserve to lose your shot if you do that. ASU Amy. The cat abuse in the movie you keep pushing is disgusting. Really super strange. You want everyone to see that. Says a lot about you. I have no idea what you're talking about. Are you talking about Obsession? Come on, get over it. It's a fucking movie. Seriously. Get over it. This is what you're complaining about. This is what you're bitching about. Please. Says a lot about you. Yes, it makes me a bad person that I put over a movie that I enjoyed because there's a few fake scenes in the movie where a cat gets killed. Give me a fucking break. Okay, now you piss me off. Seriously. You know, it's one thing to say that you didn't enjoy the movie because of it. You didn't enjoy the scene. Or how can you recommend something like that? To say, oh, it says a lot about you. Seriously, take that shit somewhere else. Get off your high horse and cut the crap. Randy Bobandy with a 1999. If Billy Gunn did not get hurt in 2000, do you see the Hardys, the Dudleys, and Edge and Christian getting the spotlight and title reigns like they did? The Outlaws had the stranglehold over the titles at the time. Billy Gunn, what was the injury that he had? I don't remember him. I don't remember what the injury was that he had, honestly. Do they get the reign that they did? I think they probably do. I think they do. I think it all works out in the end. I think they were looking for something fresh and something new. Maybe the Outlaws would have been involved in some of those matches. Maybe it would have been a 4-way instead of a 3-way. You know, TLC. Who knows? But I think it all would have worked out okay for them. Stadium J says this stipulation that Max has been using is diabolical. That's like a Gen Z thing. I see everybody loves using that word diabolical. Death Scythe says, since the next stream is on Friday, since I am late giving my 3-hour SmackDown eulogy, I say now, quaintest thoughts and queerest fancies come to life and fade away. What care I have as SmackDown reduces, I am drinking ale today. That kind of brings a little tear to my eye there. That's deeply moving, Death Side. I'm very impressed. Good morning, Cheza. Good morning to you. Nick Grasso says, just saw Obsession. Uh-oh, you better be careful. Some people don't like that. Says, just saw Obsession, and wow, what a wild movie, but I thought it was great and deserves all the praise it gets. 10 out of 10. Yeah, well, says a lot about you, Nick. Thank you, Nick. Death Scythe says, I hope we can get at least one segment with Roman Reigns and Danhausen as Tribalhausen. Also, how do you think that segment would play out? I don't think Roman Reigns would allow it. I think if they pitched it to him, he would just flat out reject it and say, no, we're not doing that. I mean, the Sammy stuff was comedic, but it worked in a way that this... I'm not saying it wouldn't be entertaining, but I don't think they want to drag it down to comedy levels, so I don't think Roman would okay it. Hey, EJ, coming in with a $4.99. Thank you, EJ. The Bloodline stuff right now, they're in their cinema phase. They're not going to reduce it to comedy fodder on the show. Deathside says, I thought The Rock versus Big Show at No Way Out was their way of getting Big Show out of the way, but they had Big Show win. LOL WWF. Well, we had to have a McMahon in every corner. It was very important. Randy with a 1999 and then another one and says, I'll be the team player tonight. Bonus goal unlocked. He was the one that put us over the top. Hat tip to Randy, man. Randy is... he's taking a victory lap. That's what he's doing. Deathside says, when a male wrestler is either the champion or just won the championship and he's about to be cashed in on, how come they kick the guy in the dick for the DQ? Because they want to keep their title. You talking about the person trying to save their title? I mean, if you were going to incapacitate your opponent, that's kind of what you would do. And as we've learned, many of these wrestlers, they don't know any better, and so they don't wear any protection down there. Warhawk Rambo MJF against Omega is going to end at a DQ or something. Yes. Some sort of screwy finish. Warhawk says, Solo, does Carlos Silva make Dixie Carter look like Paul Heyman? Boy, that's a mental Photoshop image right there that just flashed before my eyes. Dixie Carter. Either Dixie Carter made out to look like Paul Heyman or Paul Heyman made out to look like Dixie Carter. It's quite the image. Does Silva make Dixie look like Heyman? Silva's a corporate guy. You know? Dixie came from the world of public relations. That was her experience. And all of a sudden, she was the head of a wrestling company. Silva's a corporate guy. You know, and he was brought in to do things like what they're doing, where you kind of trim the fat, you cut costs, you make the company look very attractive for a future sale, even if it's not happening right now. He's doing everything they brought him in to do. He's not a wrestling guy any more than Dixie was. EJ says, to me, Stan Hansen is the greatest gaijin ever because he paved the way for every gaijin who followed. Also, did anyone throw a better lariat? No, JBL threw a pretty mean one, but Hansen's number one. He's at the top of the list. I wouldn't argue with you if that was your argument, that he's the greatest, foreign talent to hit Japan. Super Pony, $4.99. I'm calling KO versus Sammy at SummerSlam. I genuinely don't know what else Sammy does after. Oh, after if he drops the title. I don't see another triple threat. Probably not. But yeah, I mean we'll address it next week. We won't get into any of the spoilers here. EJ says, based on Tony Khan's booking style, which of my Mount Rushmore would he have pushed the best? I see. Which member of your Mount Rushmore would Tony Khan have pushed the best? Harley Race. I assume he means Harley Race, not Harley Cameron. Harley Race, Nick Bockwinkel, Terry Funk, or Bret Hart. I would say Bret. Honestly, from that list, I would say Bret. He wants to know in what order. Actually, it might be Funk. It's definitely Funk or Bret in the number one spot, and whoever's number one, the other guy's number two. And then I would say Bockwinkel and then Harley at the bottom. I feel like that's how he would rank them, or that's the order in which he would really push them. Lucky Dog says, if Solomonster wants to see a film that tortures cats, why would I want to watch a film that is nothing but that? He should watch Garfield film starring Bill Murray.
I am the learning tree. Thanks, guys.
I've had two cats in my life. I love cats. But I'm also an adult, and I understand the difference between real life and fantasy. But there are certain films that I won't see. Like I've never seen the Pet Sematary movies. There's just certain things like that that I will not see. So like when I watched this movie, I certainly was not expecting it, when it happened in this movie, but it didn't ruin the movie for me. The movie is fucking great. The movie is fantastic. We have Super Pony. Ode to the Mets by The Strokes is such a great song for such a shitty baseball team. I can't stand watching them anymore. They've caused me so much pain. I know, brother. I know. They're a terrible team. They're a terrible disappointment. Nothing but pain. I sent a tweet to Danhausen today asking him, because he had uncursed the Mets back in April. And I sent him a tweet today and I said, I don't think your uncursing of the Mets worked. So I asked him if he could do it again, and I said, I have human monies. He hasn't replied to me yet. So I don't think we're going to. I think there are just certain curses that are just too powerful for even Danhausen to lift. Justin says, Happy Canada Day and Bret Hart Day. That's the one from earlier. Thank you, Justin. EJ says, wish you would have gotten the Milwaukee versions of Peralta, Williams, and Stearns. They lost all three to the Mets, their manager to the Cubs, and still keep winning. Good for them. Warhog Rambo, how many likes came from Discord links? I was on a bunch of my servers promoting the stream. Just curious. Oh, I have no way of knowing. There's no way to know who or where the likes are from. It doesn't. There's no list. The number just goes up. There's no way for me to know. But I appreciate you spreading the word, War. I'm sure some of them came from that. So I appreciate that. Death Scythe. I have an anime recommendation for everyone. It's called Angels of Death. There's 16 episodes, and it's essentially what happens when the final girl teams up with the slasher villain. Wow, like a Swerve. How about that? That sounds interesting. Angels of Death. Yeah, but where is it airing? Is it on Netflix? EJ Slim says, happy birthday, Brett. I love Brett more than Solomonster loves the 92 Rumble. Well, that is just impossible. I find that very hard to believe. And Death Sight with another learning tree says, sorry, I meant to say, how come the champion who is about to be cashed in on never thinks to wait until the bell rings and then goes low on the Money in the Bank winner? Well, if it's a babyface, that's just not the way WWE books their babyfaces. See, if you had a smart babyface, then that's what they would do, because you do what you need to do to keep your title. It's already unfair that you're being cashed in on. You just wrestled. I would have no issues doing that. I would kick him in the dick. I would do whatever it takes. I would rake the eyes. I would hook the tights. Bash him in the head with a ball peen hammer. You know, whatever it takes. You're not wrong, but you're also looking for common sense where common sense typically does not exist. Spanish Goddess. Did you see that New York lost Mitchell Robinson to Boston? Yes, I did see that. Of all the teams for him to go to, why did it have to be the Celtics? Why did it have to be the Celtics? Literally, he could have gone anywhere else, but he had to go to the Celtics. And Boots with another 5. I'm looking at a listing of WWF No Mercy on the N64. Part of the description reads as, jump into the ring with the biggest, baddest jambronis around. Or jambronis. Jambronis? Well, I mean, they didn't hire a copy editor for the video game, so this is what happens. Temjin, what's going on, Temjin? He says, has anybody seen The Furious? I wanted to. People recommended it, and I checked, and it wasn't. I think it's just out of the theater here, so it's not showing now. So I'll have to wait until it hits digital, which probably won't be too much longer. But I am thinking about reserving my tickets for the Odyssey. It's not out for another 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, and I just happened to go look, and it's already, like, the theater is already almost sold out. But I'm like, do I want to see it? It's a long movie, but it's Nolan. Nolan is just one of the best directors in the world. Do I see it in IMAX? You know, like the theater that I normally go to has one of these, we call them Limax. They're not really IMAX. It's like marginally bigger than IMAX, but it's really, it's a small IMAX screen. And I know this was shot in some different formats, 70 millimeter or something. So I'm like, does it even matter? You know, like these IMAX tickets are like fucking $30, $40. Should I see it in standard? Should I see it in just, you know, Limax? I don't know. Everything's so complicated. Just want to go see the fucking movie. Now I got to figure out like what format I want to see it in. It's like, get the fuck out of here. Oh, man. EJ says, I'm convinced Hogan was never really a babyface and Brett was never really a heel. At least not in Canada. Hogan, I told you for years on the show, this would come up. Hogan was never a real babyface. He was a heel masquerading around as a babyface. If you ever watched him wrestle, dude, he wrestled like a heel. He cheated all, like Jesse Ventura was right. He cheated all the time. Eye gouges and back rakes. He would not hesitate taking a shortcut. And the people fell for it. Spanish Goddess said, hey, the Celtics made one of the worst trades ever today. LOL. Don Stoney. Shout out to Don Tony Wrestling Soup at Spitball Media. And as always, rest in peace, Kevin Castle. Yes, indeed. R.I.P. to Kev. Man, I missed that guy. Thank you, Don Stoney. And EJ Slemp says, Brett main evented a bigger crowd than Hogan Andre. His international drawing power shuts down the he wasn't a draw argument fast. Well, he drew that crowd working an Englishman on a stadium show in London. So I think Bulldog had a lot to do with that. That's the only reason they ran Wembley. They were going to run Brett and Shawn in a ladder match in DC. And once they realized, okay, we're going to do Brett and Bulldog here, they made the decision to do it in London. And also, in 92, business was not good. Business was not good. And they had a lot of names. I mean, they had Hogan for a while there. They had Savage and Flair, and Brett was kind of on the ascent. They still had Piper, Undertaker, Jake. It's a great fucking roster they had, but business was not great. Internationally, though, business was tremendous for them. So they would go to Europe and they would work all of these different cities and these different countries, and business was a hell of a lot hotter for them overseas at that time than it was here in the States. So there were a lot of reasons that went into them running Wembley. I'm as big of a Brett fan as anybody, but you can't say that is some sort of end-all be-all argument for why Brett was some big draw. I mean, can't really say that was all Brett. And Spanish Goddess, so I was at Forbidden Door on Sunday, a solid 8 out of 10 show. I feel like they could have cut back time on some of the match. Oh, yeah, you think? Every match on the show went 20 minutes. Says also, shout out to Rocky Romero, got to take a photo with him. Yeah, Rocky's a nice guy. Rocky Romero, he does a lot more these days outside the ring than he does inside the ring, and obviously works with New Japan. He's sort of a liaison between the two different companies, the go-between. He's an important person. And by all accounts, he's a nice dude. Bulldog won that match, whether he wanted to or not. That's right. Oh, where is that kid today? What a haircut on that kid, too. They were interviewing fans before the show at Wembley. And there's this one kid. And I don't even remember if that was a boy or a girl. That was a whole other thing. Like, people thought it was a boy, but I think it was a girl, but maybe not. I don't know. But the British Bulldog is going to win whether he wants to or not. I'm like, what a weird thing to say. I wonder where that person is today. All right, so we are at 518 likes. And the wheel said 475. So we blew past that and we hit the bonus goal, which means we got a couple of rounds here coming our way of Be the Booker. I got a good feeling about this tonight.
It's now time to be the Booker.
Thank you, Spanish Goddess. It was a girl. She did the thing as an adult a while ago. Wow, it was a girl. Yeah, sometimes when you're a kid and you have these haircuts, it's you don't want to offend somebody. You just don't know. I remember there was a kid in my elementary school class, a boy, but the haircut that he had, everybody thought he was a girl, and he got picked on, and it was terrible. Kids can be very cruel. Let me tell you, especially girls, is one thing that I know. I mean, not that boys are much better, but like the girls were like brutal to each other. My goodness. It was awful. I don't know what it is. All right, here we go. Tag team Be the Booker. The bowl haircut. Look, there was a point in time where I wanted a bowl haircut. I thought it might be a good look for me. I'm glad I was talked out of it. Can you imagine me with a bowl haircut? Is Obafemi in Be the Booker? Yes, he is. We got the Lucha Bros. We got Penta. And we got Rey Fenix. Maybe one day we'll see these two back together. The Lucha Brothers. Tag team Be the Booker against the Usos. Now, would that be considered a dream match? Because it's a doable match, right? They all work for the same company now. People throw that word around so much. It's a big one, though. That's a big one. Do we get Alex Abrahantes? No. He's too busy. He's busy on QVC promoting all of the HP laptops. I saw him the other day flipping around. I'm like, there's Alex. There's Alex. He's selling the latest HP laptop. All right, women's Be the Booker. We have Becky Two Belts. It is Becky Lynch. It's a big one right there. That's a big name. So we need another big name for her to step into the ring with. We need a drum roll for a big name. We gotta bust out the drum roll. Becky Lynch against Paige. And you know what? That's another one that is absolutely doable now because they're both under the same roof. They're working for the same company. Becky and Paige. That could be a thing at some point. And our night one main event. We got another one coming up. We got to do this one first. Darby Allin. This will be a very polarizing one. Some people don't think he should be in the main event. He's too small. I can't take him seriously. I heard this when he was the champion. Darby Allin in the main event. Hey, you know, Sting is in Be the Booker. Wouldn't that be something if we landed on Sting? I don't know why it always freezes on that. It always like briefly freezes on that with The Rock and his soul. Let's try that again here. Threw me off. Darby Allin against the honorary Uce, Sami Zayn. The WWE. I can actually sit here. I may not be able to say this a week from now, so I'm going to say it now. The WWE champion, Sami Zayn. And that, by the way, is I almost forgot. That's a clean sweep. That is a clean sweep. Not a bad match either. Not bad at all. Okay. You guys earned it. You unlocked it. You put the key in the hole. The door opened. And now we get a second round of Be the Booker. Can we go for the double sweep? Can we do it? Doesn't happen very often. We're going to pick a stipulation. This is what we do with the bonus round, by the way. We have a, and I have to update this, but we have a stipulations round. So we're starting with last man standing. So we have to do a singles match here. We have no choice. I mean, I guess you can technically do a last man standing tag team match, but that would be kind of dumb. Yeah, Be the Booker the other night. It shows violence. We did Monsters Ball. We did, what else did we do? Was there an exploding barbed wire death match in there? And there was some other hardcore stipulation. It was out for blood. All right, we have Kane. You know, we just passed the anniversary. The 28 years? 28-year anniversary of Kane's 24 hours as the WWF champion. Kane is going to be in a last man standing match against... Ooh, this is a good one. This is a good one. OG Kane. Actually, he's from 98 too, this version of Sting. OG Kane against Crow Sting from 98. Basically, if you took this Sting that year and put him in the ring with Kane, this is what we just booked here and Be the Booker. How's that for a match? That's awesome. All right, stipulation number 2 is a stretcher match. Put your opponent on the stretcher. You got to wheel the stretcher over the yellow line, and you win the match. That doesn't sound like a wrestling match. That sounds like some sort of obstacle course. We'll do the women. How about that? We'll do a women's stretcher match. I don't know that there ever has been a women's stretcher match, now that I think about it. Not in WWE, anyway. All right, we have Julia. Oh, I missed this version of Julia. Where has this version of Julia gone? Can we get her back, please? What have they done to her? That's Stardom Julia. In a stretcher match. Against Ivory. Ivory was a hell of a wrestler. Her days go all the way back to Glow in the late 80s. Right, Gina Moretti. Glow Ivory against Stardom Julia. I like it. I think we're going to forego the tag team match. We're going to go right to our main event now. This is what we're going to do. We're going to pick one last stipulation. And actually, I think in addition to this, because you guys have just been killing it all night tonight, I think we'll do a 4th match and we'll make it intergender. How's that sound? We have a ladder match. Okay. Let's see what we got. We've got the Big Boss Man. We landed on him the other night. We just landed on the Big Boss Man the other night. In a ladder match. Oh, my goodness. The Big Boss Man in a ladder match against the Beast Mortos. Mortos is awesome, but unfortunately he's dealing with visa issues, which is why he just dropped off the face of the earth, so we haven't seen him lately. Mercedes has been keeping him busy, I'm sure. But I said we were going to book an intergender match. We went 3 out of 3 back-to-back times. Are we going to ruin it, though? Because if we add the one more match and we fuck it up, then technically that sweep that we just belled doesn't really count. All right, so this is going to be an intergender match. We don't do these very often. So let's see on the women's side first. Let's see who's going to be in this match. Here we go. Kris Statlander. Funny enough, she has the TBS championship in her hand here in this image. The TBS championship that she failed to win tonight on Dynamite. So we have Kris Statlander on one side, and on the other side, should be very interesting here. Statlander is going to get in the ring with, oh my God, Big Papa Pump, Scott Steiner. Fuck it, I'll give it the bell anyway. That would be quite the contest. You know, Kris Statlander is, she's a powerful lady herself, but against Big Papa Pump, I don't think the chances are very good for her. In fact, he'd be giving us some of that Steiner math right now, telling us she only has a 30% chance of victory here in this match. Look at this man's arms. Like it's inhuman. It is inhuman. It's not possible. This looks like AI, but it's a real image. That would be something. I'm trying to picture that. Scott Steiner and Kris Statlander in the ring together. Spanish Goddess says, add Dr. Wagner Jr. to be the booker. Why? Boring. There's more exciting people that we could be adding to be the booker. It's been a while since I've given the men's round a refresh. I'll have to work on some updates to it. And I have other rounds I've been meaning to. I want to add a manager's round. So every now and then, maybe for an extra goal or something, we could add managers. Multi-generations of managers to choose from there. Bobby Heenan, Captain Lou, Jimmy Hart, Paul Bear, Gary Hart, Paul Heyman, Sable, Sonny, Marlena, J.J. Dillon. The list is endless. Is Blackheart Leo Rush? He is not. Thank you for reminding me. I will have to add Blackheart Leo Rush to the list of names. Any suggestions that you have? Maybe I haven't thought of any recent people that might not be in there. I'll take those suggestions. You could email me, thesolomonster@gmail.com, or leave a comment below this video. Hey, this was fun. This was a fun review. This was the liveliest Dynamite review we've had in a while, which was good to see. And I appreciate all the support. This is the way you kick off a brand new month. Now, there's no WWE pay-per-views this month. Oh, I'm sorry. PLEs. Saturday night's main event is not technically a PLE. I'm sorry. But we do have that coming up on July 18th. We have Redemption coming up on the 26th. I guess those are the two big shows. Beach Break next week, shaping up to be a big one. I will tell you this, there's going to be a big match on Raw in Chicago next week. So we got that coming up. And otherwise, we should be basically following a normal schedule. I don't really foresee there being any preemptions. There's no HOG shows that are taking me away this month. That'll be the following few months we have coming up. But anyway, hit that like button on your way out if you have not already done so. As I mentioned earlier, we have get out of here, fucking wheel. The Uncrowned Wrestling Show went up yesterday on the Ariel Helwani Show feed, or the separate feed for the Uncrowned Wrestling Show specifically. You can get the show in either place. It's the same show, just two different ways of streaming it. And so the full Forbidden Door review is up there. Plus, I talk about TNA Slammiversary. And, of course, a lot of the WWE stuff as well. A couple of other news and notes in there. So be sure to go ahead and check that out. And then the next time I'm live with you, even though it's a taped show on Friday, I will be live for SmackDown. Thankfully, SmackDown is back to 2 hours this week. So it's 8 to 10. I'll be live around 10:30. We get to go live about an hour earlier than usual. And we'll talk about SmackDown. It sounds like there'll be some eventful stuff going on there, from what I understand. And then we have the Sound Off coming up this weekend, episode 970. And onward we go. So, Temjin says, I'll listen to Uncrowned at work later today. See, that's a good idea. You don't want to be doing work. Work is boring, right? Sitting in an office, maybe a cubicle, bored out of your mind. That's where the Uncrowned show will come in very handy. Be well. Stay safe. Have yourselves a great rest of your night. If you are in a place where it's going to be very hot tomorrow, like it will be here out on the East Coast, do hydrate. That's a very real thing. I've had family members that have forgotten to hydrate and then they pass out, and so it's not a good situation. So it's going to be 90-something degrees here in New York. Just be safe. And I'll see you back here for the SmackDown stream on Friday night. So until then, take care, guys. Thanks for the love.